Hi, I'm John Gray, author of Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, and here's an important tip for Winter of Wellness listeners. We all want wellness in our life, and we see so many people getting sick, and they're often going to their doctors. And their doctors are trained to deal with disease, but not really trained to help people be healthy. And one of the most powerful things you can do to ensure that you'll live a life of health is to understand the relationship between our body's hormones and our stress levels. And when we have elevated stress level, how that creates a foundation for all of sickness and disease. And if we can regulate our stress levels, we have the foundation for lasting health. So let's take a few minutes to understand what happens when our body experiences stress. It's not that our life is stressful that's the problem. It's how are we responding to that stress. And the way we respond to that stress, if we're not doing it in a positive way, is with feelings of frustration, of urgency, of anxiety, of not sleeping well, of annoyance, of irritation, or simply numbness. And a lot of those feelings are often covered up by cravings for sugar and desserts, or alcohol, or overworking, a variety of addictions. So you may have those addictions and not even know what you're hiding by those addictions, but you give up all addictions, you're left with these negative emotional responses, which are directly associated with elevated cortisol levels, and that affects our health. Now, what's interesting to know, even when someone is depressed, often not in touch with any feelings, numb to their feelings, if you measure their cortisol levels, they'll be at least 3 times higher than normal. Now, what happens when cortisol levels are elevated? When your body's stress response is activated, ideally it should be a temporary response to give your muscles more energy to run away from danger. However, we're living in an era where we tend to be experiencing chronic stress. Chronic stress is associated with elevated cortisol levels. When cortisol, the stress hormone, cortisol is elevated, the pancreas immediately stops making digestive enzymes as well as metabolic enzymes. Digestive enzymes help us to break down our proteins, our fats, our carbohydrates, but particularly what's missing when we don't have enough enzymes is we don't break down our proteins into the amino acids necessary to fuel the brain with the phenylalanine for dopamine and the tryptophan for serotonin and the glutamine for GABA. So these are very important amino acids necessary to get into our brain. With more dopamine, we experience motivation and purpose. And one of the differences between men and women is we men tend to run out of dopamine much faster than women. And when our dopamine levels drop because our digestion is not good, our testosterone levels begin to decline. Your average male today in America at 40 years old has the testosterone levels of a 70-year-old man just 40 years ago. Your average 50-year-old man in America has half the testosterone levels he had as a young man. If you go to an indigenous culture, you'll see that men's testosterone levels never drop except in their last days. So what we want to do is ensure that the brain gets the dopamine that it requires to make the testosterone to keep us energetic and motivated and fully alive. Now for women, when they're under stress, quite often what occurs is the body runs out of serotonin. Women tend to have more dopamine. They don't tend to have the problems men have because when a man's under stress, most of the amino acids that are available go to the muscles and not the brain to make dopamine. But for a woman, she can make serotonin, but when she's under stress, she has 8 times more blood flow to the limbic system of the brain, which is causing her to feel strong emotions and distress. And the brain then releases serotonin as a way to calm the brain. But she can quickly run out of serotonin. So women are more vulnerable to running out of serotonin, and therefore their stress levels remain high. And as their stress levels remain high, again, just like with men, they're unable to fully digest their proteins and get the amino acids they need to replenish the brain. So this is what we're seeing is so much distress and stress in our society. A lot of it has to do with our high stress levels and the inability to digest our food properly. Now, not only does cortisol inhibit digestion, but it also inhibits the production of hydrochloric acid, which would help our body to extract B vitamins. B vitamins are so important for hundreds of functions in the body, but particularly for the brain and the production of brain chemicals. So even if you have amino acids, if you don't have your B vitamins, you can't make those brain chemicals. In addition, when your cortisol levels are elevated, your immune system becomes compromised. Your immune system temporarily becomes suppressed. You can actually see when a person has gotten a speeding ticket, take a drop of their blood and you'll see there'll be no white blood cells. Literally, all of the killer cells that would protect you from the growth of cancer are temporarily gone. So our risk of cancer dramatically increases as we experience higher stress levels. So wellness has a lot to do with our attitude and our thinking, but it also has to do with nutrition. It's important that we understand both go hand in hand. If we don't have the right nutrition, we can't help replenish the brain. For example, when our digestion is compromised, we have to understand easy to digest foods. If we're not getting the vitamins we need, we have to understand what vitamin supplements could help us. This is so significant that we get the nutrition that we need. In addition, when we run low in nutrition, we tend to crave instant energy because we're not having the brain chemicals to stimulate our body to make a lot of energy. The body craves quick energy, and that's where we go to stimulants like caffeine or sugar. Sugar is the most deadly of them all. Not that a moderate amount of sugar is a problem, but we have excessive amounts of sugar. The average person in America eats 150 pounds of sugar a year. 100 years ago, it might have been 15 pounds. So it's a huge difference, 10 times more. And this is why we have so much tendency towards overweight and diabetes and prediabetics and so forth. But it's really the cause of so much imbalance in our stress levels, which are going to affect our health. So when we're feeling stressed, our body's not able to digest our food or metabolize fat, and therefore it now craves sugar. One of the big problems with sugar is when we eat sugar, it depletes our brain of minerals. So we now become mineral deficient, and these minerals are necessary to make the brain chemicals of health and wellness. So there's so much information that we need to learn about supplementation, certain foods that are easier to digest, as well as behaviors that can help stimulate the right brain chemicals and behaviors that can stimulate the correct hormones. When it comes to men and women, we'll be exploring what behaviors can help a man release testosterone and lower his stress, and also to rebuild testosterone. Testosterone supplements, not hormonal supplements, but actually taking herbs can help rebuild testosterone. But in the long run, we want to learn what behaviors actually rebuild testosterone. And for women, what behaviors can actually increase serotonin, can balance her estrogen progesterone levels, and also increase oxytocin, the hormone that lowers stress in women. We'll be exploring these different behaviors to find that balance, because truly our bodies are designed to make these hormones. How can we find that balance again once they're out of balance? Many people go and think that they have to take hormones, and yet never in history have people taken hormones, nor is our body designed to take hormones. And if you take hormones, whether bioidentical or synthetic, it is known that your body stops making them on your own, and you become dependent outside yourself rather than independent, where your body is making those hormones. And there are new insights that we've discovered to help you balance those hormones, to make those hormones once again. In indigenous societies today, women don't have the menopausal symptoms, nor do men have the symptoms of low testosterone, giving rise to depression and heart attacks at a younger age. This doesn't occur there because they're able to allow their bodies to regulate hormones automatically. A simple answer to that, in brief, is that when a woman has high stress levels, to make the cortisol, the body uses up progesterone, which is the balancing hormone to estrogen, and she results with an estrogen dominance, which causes all kinds of problems for women. And for men, when they have elevated cortisol levels, their testosterone levels begin to drop and estrogen levels begin to increase, and that causes estrogen dominance in men. In the Winter of Wellness program, we'll explore practical solutions so you can ensure a lifetime of love. It's very exciting for me to share this with you, and I can't wait to share more ideas with you.